animals live in many environments. This one, a desert in Africa, is hot, dry, and full of sand. It might look empty, but tracks show there is life here. Beetles race across the sand. Unusual animals, like this skink, move on the sand's surface. These interesting tracks were made by a snake. It moves in a sidewinding fashion, which lets most of its body stay off the hot sand. In the fierce heat of the desert, animals do strange things. This lizard keeps its feet off the blazing sand by doing a kind of dance. First, 2 feet are in the air, then the other 2. And finally, all 4 feet are lifted. Other animals spend the day under the sand. As the sun gets higher in the sky, geckos burrow into the sand, because a few inches below the surface, it is much cooler. Some animals spend most of their time beneath the sand. The golden mole lives almost entirely underground. Because it does, it is blind. Those animals that do not live below ground need to get water from food. Here, in the heat of the day, a chameleon hunts for food. Carefully, quietly, it stalks another animal that exists on the desert's surface, the beetle. And beetles make a juicy meal for the chameleon. This tiny desert antelope is called a steenbok. It gets most of its water from moisture in the desert shrubs it browses upon at night. The rainforest is made up of thousands of tall green trees. It's always hot and damp. There are frequent tropical rainstorms. The rainforest has countless plants and animals. In fact, half of all the animals on Earth are found there. Rainforests abound with life of different shapes and colors. Sounds of every kind can be heard. It is here in the treetops that most of the animals live, not just small ones, but large ones as well. These are spider monkeys. They use their long arms, long legs, and long tails to swing through the trees and make huge leaps. The white hawk has a wonderful view as it flies over the trees of the rainforest looking for food. With its sharp claws and hooked beak, the white hawk is a hunter of the treetops. In the treetops, on high branches, there is a miniature jungle. These plants growing here are home to many animals, like scorpions, cockroaches, frogs, and even snakes. The sloth is one of the slowest moving animals on Earth. But in the treetop world, it doesn't have to be fast, feeding as it does on the plentiful leaves of rainforest trees. At night, the sights and sounds of the rainforest change as different animals come out. The Margay is a rainforest cat with a superb ability to climb and make long, graceful leaps. Like the hawk, the Margay is a hunter, but it seeks its food at night. Tree frogs are good climbers too. Their feet, like suction pads, help them climb. The male frogs are calling to attract females. The Margay's kitten is just learning to hunt. The young cat finds a tree frog, but the frog is hard to catch. Northern lands, freezing cold, are covered with snow much of the year. Here, temperatures often fall to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Under the blanket of snow, however, it's warmer. Lemmings are rushing around and feeding. Now, in winter, beneath the snow, they are busily looking after their babies. Above ground, moose are busy too. The males with their huge antlers are fighting over females. The fights are just a test of strength. Usually no animal gets hurt, but the stronger, larger male drives off the other one. These birds are called ptarmigans. They stay in the Arctic all winter. In the winter, they grow white feathers, which make the bird hard to see. This hides them from hunting animals. Spring comes very quickly here. The snow melts, the plants grow, and different animals start to appear. The grizzly bear comes out of the den where she has hibernated with her newborn cubs. Now she is very hungry and searches for food. She digs up roots, moss, and ants to eat. Her cubs follow her, playing. In the short spring and summer, plants grow quickly and insects appear. The insects provide fresh food for the many birds, like ducks and geese, that migrate into the area. Birds migrate in the air, other animals on land. Caribou go from forest to open pasture. Often they swim rivers to get there. Tidal swamps are muddy places on tropical coasts. Odd creatures live there. Proboscis monkeys with large noses and big bellies live in these forests. They eat the buds and young leaves of the trees. Here, when the tide goes out, hundreds of crabs leave their holes to feed on what the water has left behind. Called fiddler crabs because the male's large claw looks like a fiddle, they sift through the mud in search of tiny pieces of food. A crab will wave this claw to attract females and to make sure other male crabs know this patch of mud is his. These mud skippers are fish, but they are fish that actually walk on land. Like the crabs, they find food on the mud's surface. Here, males are fighting to protect their own area of mud. The one that loses has to find another place. When the tide comes in, everything changes. Crabs go back into their holes. Before they do, though, they cut a perfectly shaped plug of mud, which is used as a lid to seal their holes. This caterpillar on the mangrove leaves starts to stick the leaves together. This work must be done quickly because the tide is coming in. Now the caterpillar is covered. But it is safe inside a bubble of air, trapped by the silken chamber it has spun. When the tide is in, the monkeys have to swim across the channels. However, some prefer to leap. The world has many places. Some are hot, some cold, some dry, some wet, some rich, some bare. But remarkably, in all these places, no matter the conditions, animals have learned to live.